Joining me now is Democratic Congressman David Cicilline. He is on the House Judiciary Committee, which has a keen interest in all of this. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us. I want to start this conversation by listening to something that Chairman Elijah Cummings said after this dramatic hearing yesterday with Michael Cohen. Let's listen.
Do you believe that the president committed a crime while in office?
Based on what, looking at the text and listening to Mr. Cohen, it appears that he did.
So, Congressman, yes or no, has the president committed crimes while in office?
Well, I think Chairman Cummings is correct. Based on the testimony that we saw yesterday, it does appear, in fact, that the president engaged in crimes while in office. We saw evidence, really, of a crime spree that began before he became president and continued into the White House. This was the first public oversight hearing of the Oversight Committee. The Judiciary Committee will begin its oversight work very shortly. This is really the beginning of congressional oversight and investigation of this administration. We haven't been able to really do any oversight for the last 2 years because our Republican colleagues were unwilling to do that with us. That has changed, and we will now begin this work. This is very serious. These are serious allegations. We have a responsibility in the Judiciary Committee to fully investigate these and many other claims that have been made with respect to this president and his administration, and we intend to do that.
So you just said, yes, based on the evidence, crimes in office and a crime spree, you said, before office. What are the first areas you think that Congress needs to investigate?
Well, I think we need to investigate both the payment of hush money to influence the outcome of the presidential election. I think we need to look at the financial crimes that have been alleged. I think we need to look at all of the evidence that has been presented, some of it presented during the course of the special counsel's investigation, some of it that was revealed yesterday. We intend to do a robust review of all of this information and conduct oversight. And I think, we will set out in the coming weeks our strategy and what areas we'll focus on. But there's a lot of oversight that has been building up for the last 2 years that we just haven't been able to do. We pleaded with our Republican chairman to begin oversight hearings. We're going to do our oversight responsibilities, even if our Republican colleagues want to behave more like defense lawyers for the president rather than independent members of another branch of government with oversight responsibilities.
I want to read you a part of the Constitution. This is Article 2, Section 4. The President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. You used the phrase crime spree. You talked about evidence of crimes while Donald Trump has been in office. Do either of those or any of them constitute, in your mind, high crimes and misdemeanors?
Well, I think there's no question that we have seen evidence both in what has been made public in the special counsel's investigation and certainly what Mr. Cohen testified to yesterday, which constitute crimes. I think there's no question about it. We now have the responsibility to investigate these. The special counsel has been at work for 2 years, but Congress really is only beginning its oversight and investigative work because it was in Republican hands and they refused to do it. So we have a lot of work to do. We've got to corroborate evidence. We've got to bring in witnesses. We've got to, subpoena documents. So we have a lot of investigative and oversight work to do.
I get that. With some Democrats, it seems that there is a hesitancy to use the I word, impeachment. I guess what I'm trying to understand is the space between what you're willing to say today, which is crimes, evidence of crimes. Where's the space between crimes and evidence of crimes and impeachment proceedings?
Well, I think, everyone wants to be careful that we recognize you have one occasion to proceed with impeachment, and we ought to do it when we've gathered all of the evidence that would support it. And I think it's, people want to be sure they don't appear as if they've prejudged it in some way. If you're asking me today if it seems more likely that the president could be removed from office based on what we know, is it more likely today than it was on Tuesday? I think the answer to that is yes. But this is really the beginning of our congressional investigative work. But I think, we ought to be very clear about this. If the facts and the evidence warrant removal of the president from office, we have a constitutional responsibility to do it. If they do not, then we cannot do it. And it shouldn't be done for a political reason, and it shouldn't be avoided for a political reason. We have a duty. We have an oath. We've taken an oath. So we've got to gather the evidence. We've got to conduct a full investigation, bring in the witnesses, gather the documentary evidence, and then make a determination as to whether or not it's appropriate to move forward with impeachment.
7 hours and 21 minutes, as Allison keeps telling me. I leave out the 21 minutes. What were the most surprising things to you?
I mean, I was struck by Mr. Cohen's testimony about how he was really, sort of that line where he said to the Republican members of the committee, I'm doing what you did for 10 years. I did for 10 years what you're doing today. I defended the president at all costs. I now understand how dangerous and wrong that is. And his willingness to share in a very honest way many things we didn't even know about, and with really no expectation that he's going to get anything for it. He has everything to lose by in any way being dishonest to Congress. And I think he was a very compelling witness and a broken man, but someone who recognized he had to look his children in the eye and that he could control the future, maybe not the past.
I'm out of time, but you use the phrase honest man in combination with Michael Cohen, and Republicans would say those aren't words that necessarily should go together. So just very quickly, you think he's credible?
Oh, I do think he's credible. Look, I think he acknowledged that he was untruthful and he lied for the president. But, you know, the prisons are filled with people who are convicted because someone from inside the organization came forward and told the truth and is really the only way to penetrate large criminal organizations. So prisons are filled with people like that. That happens all the time. It's up to the American people and members of Congress to assess his credibility, to look at the other evidence, just support it. But I thought he was credible. I thought he was honest with the committee, and he acknowledged his past misdeeds and his past failings of being honest to Congress. But I think he brought in documentary evidence that supported very many things that he said.
David Cicilline from Rhode Island, thanks so much for being with us, Congressman.
My pleasure.
Okay,